My name is Isla, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a marketing professional in the heart of a bustling city. My days are filled with campaigns, deadlines, and brainstorming sessions, but I've always loved the fast-paced energy of my career. I live in a cozy apartment with my husband, Ethan. To most people, we're the perfect couple. He's charming, thoughtful, and always seems to know how to make me smile. Together, we've built a life that feels solid, like nothing could ever shake it. But here's the thing. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. It started with a late night at work. Ethan had been unusually distant for weeks, but I'd convinced myself it was just the pressure of his demanding job as an architect. He often stayed late at the firm or came home preoccupied with blueprints and client calls. That night, while waiting for him, I decided to tackle a mountain of emails I had neglected. But instead of my inbox, I found Ethan's laptop open on the kitchen counter. He rarely left it unlocked, so the temptation was their quick, harmless curiosity. I told myself it was nothing, just a glance. But as I clicked on his email, the subject lines told a different story. Thinking of you. Last night was incredible. When can I see you again? My heart pounded in my chest as I clicked on one of the messages. The words on the screen blurred as I read them. The intimacy, the warmth. This wasn't casual. And then her name, Ava. A wave of nausea hit me, but I couldn't stop scrolling. How long had this been going on? Why hadn't I noticed? Every email felt like a punch, each one chipping away at the life I thought I knew. When the front door finally opened and Ethan stepped inside, I closed the laptop and tried to steady my breathing. I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet. I barely slept that night. Ethan had fallen into bed without a second glance, exhausted as usual, while I lay staring at the ceiling, replaying those emails over and over. My mind raced with questions, none of which I had answers for. Who was Ava? How had this started? Did he love her? By morning, I had decided one thing. I needed more information before I could confront him. While Ethan showered, I tiptoed into the kitchen and reopened his laptop. My hands trembled as I scrolled further. The messages were sporadic, scattered across weeks. Dinner plans, fleeting confessions of longing, and inside jokes I couldn't understand. But it wasn't just the content. It was the tone. Ethan had never spoken to me with such raw vulnerability. The realization hit me like a cold wind. He wasn't just cheating. He was emotionally connected to her. I heard the water stop in the bathroom and quickly closed the laptop, my heart hammering in my chest. I needed to act natural, but I could feel the cracks in my composure starting to show. When Ethan came into the kitchen, he kissed my forehead, his usual gesture of affection. "Morning," he said, his voice warm, familiar. I forced a smile. Morning. But inside, I was already planning my next move. That next move came quicker than I anticipated. At work, I struggled to focus, my mind circling back to those emails. My stomach churned every time I thought about Ethan's words to Ava, the way he seemed to bare his soul to her. By mid-afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. During my lunch break, I called my best friend, Sophie. If anyone could help me untangle this mess, it was her. She picked up on the second ring. "Isla, what's up?" I hesitated, unsure how to begin. "I need to talk to you." "It's about Ethan." Her tone shifted immediately. "What's going on? Are you okay?" I glanced around the small cafe where I was hiding, ensuring no one from the office was nearby. I found emails between him and someone else, a woman. Sophie's sharp inhale cut through the line. "Are you serious? What did they say?" "Everything," I whispered, tears threatening to spill. "He's been seeing her." "It's more than physical, Soph. I think my voice broke. "I think he's in love with her." Her silence spoke volumes, and when she finally replied, her voice was steady but firm. "You need to confront him, Isla. You can't let this fester." "I will," I said, though the thought filled me with dread, "but I need to figure out how." Sophie's encouragement carried me through the rest of the day, but as I headed home, the weight of what I had to face felt heavier than ever. When I walked through the door that evening, Ethan greeted me with a casual smile, utterly unaware that his perfect world was about to come crashing down. I stood in the doorway, my keys still in hand, watching Ethan move around the kitchen. He was slicing vegetables, humming to himself completely at ease. The sight made my stomach twist. How could he act so normal, so oblivious, when everything between us was crumbling? I set my bag down and took a deep breath. "Ethan, can we talk?" He glanced up, a slight frown creasing his forehead. "Of course. What's on your mind?" I hesitated, my heart pounding. This was it. The words stuck in my throat. I wasn't ready to throw Ava's name into the room, to shatter the illusion of our life together. "Not yet. I've noticed you've been distant lately," I said instead, testing the waters. "Is something going on?" Ethan's expression softened, and he set the knife down. "Work's been crazy, you know that." I didn't realize I was being distant. "I'm sorry, Isla." His apology was so earnest, so convincing, that for a moment I almost believed him, almost. But then I remembered the emails, the dinners, the intimacy he shared with her. I nodded, forcing a smile. "It's okay. I just wanted to make sure we're okay." "We are," he said, crossing the kitchen to pull me into a hug. His arms around me felt familiar, but the warmth I used to find there was gone. As he held me, I closed my eyes and made a silent vow. I wouldn't let this lie go unchallenged. The truth would come out, one way or another. That night, I lay awake beside Ethan, his steady breathing a cruel contrast to the storm raging inside me. I thought of all the promises we'd made, the dreams we'd shared. How had we ended up here? But this wasn't just about Ethan's betrayal anymore. It was about me, what I could live with, what I deserved. Staying silent felt like letting him rob me of my voice, my agency. I couldn't do that. not anymore. By the early hours of the morning, I made my decision. I would confront him. Not recklessly, but deliberately, with every piece of evidence I had. If our marriage was going to fall apart, it wouldn't be in silence. As the first light of dawn crept through the blinds, I turned to Ethan, studying his face. The man I loved, the man I thought I knew, had been lying to me. But if I was going to fight for clarity, whether for closure or a chance to rebuild, I needed answers. I wouldn't wait for the truth to reveal itself. I'd uncover it, even if it unraveled everything. The storm was coming, and I was ready to face it head on. The moment came sooner than I expected. Ethan's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter as I poured coffee the next morning. I glanced at the screen out of habit, but what I saw made me freeze. Ava. He noticed me staring and reached for the phone, his movements too quick, too calculated. My chest tightened, anger bubbling beneath my calm facade. I couldn't pretend anymore. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Ethan stopped, his hand hovering over the phone. For a second, he didn't look at me, and in that silence, the air between us became razor sharp. "Isla, it's not what you think," he began, but the hesitation in his voice betrayed him. "Don't," I said, cutting him off. "Don't insult me with lies. I've seen the emails, Ethan. I know about Ava." His face paled, and for the first time in years, I saw something unfamiliar in his expression. Fear. "I can explain," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, my hands gripping the edge of the counter. "No, Ethan, this is your moment to tell me the truth. All of it. No excuses, no half-truths. Who is she? How long has this been going on?" He looked down, the weight of my questions bearing down on him. When he finally met my gaze, his eyes were filled with something I couldn't place: remorse. Perhaps, or maybe just the realization that there was no way out. "I never meant for it to happen," he said, his voice breaking. "It started as a distraction, but then it became something more." The words hung in the air like a noose. My heart broke, not just for the betrayal, but for the man standing in front of me, the man I thought I knew. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I felt a strange, hollow calm. "I need space," I said, my voice firmer than I expected. "I need time to figure out what I want, and you—" I paused, my gaze piercing. "You need to decide if this marriage means anything to you." Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. "No, not now. When you're ready to be honest, truly honest, then we'll talk." I grabbed my keys and walked out the door, leaving him standing there, his world crumbling just as mine had. As I stepped into the crisp morning air, I realized this was only the beginning. Whether our marriage could survive or not, one thing was clear. I wouldn't let this betrayal define me. I'd find my own truth, even if it meant starting over. Each story is an opportunity to expand your vocabulary, improve your understanding, and be inspired. Continue learning English in an engaging way. If you liked it, Subscribe to the channel and watch the next story to learn even more.